Have you ever wondered if there's a real formula for investing? I mean, something beyond just a gut feeling, a legit mathematical strategy? Well, back in 1952, a young economist named Harry Markowitz published a paper that gave us exactly that. So today, we're going to dive into the work that literally became the foundation for all of modern finance. Right from the get-go, Markowitz hits us with this powerful idea. Investing isn't just one move, it's a two-stage process. First, you have to form your beliefs about how different investments are going to perform. And second, and this is really our focus here, you select the right portfolio based on those beliefs. It totally reframes investing as this thoughtful, deliberate strategy right from the start. Now, to really get how revolutionary this was, you have to picture the world before 1952. The biggest question for any investor was pretty simple. Okay, how do I actually choose my investments? The problem was the answers you get were, well, they were all over the place, super vague, and a lot of the time they even contradicted each other. We've all heard this a million times, right? Don't put all your eggs in one basket. It's classic advice, and it just feels smart to spread your risk around. But here's the really weird part. For a long, long time, the formal rules of investing didn't actually back this up at all. And this is where things get kind of wild. The main rule for investing used to be simple. Just maximize your returns, make the most money possible. But if you actually take that rule literally, what does it tell you to do? It tells you to put every single penny into the one asset you think will go up the most. That is the exact opposite of diversifying. So now we've got a real puzzle. Is that old eggs in one basket saying just some feel-good myth with no basis in reality? Or is the traditional rule of just maximizing returns fundamentally broken? This is the exact question that Markowitz set out to answer, and it sparked a total revolution. To solve this paradox, Markowitz knew he needed better tools. He had to take these fuzzy concepts that everyone talked about, like risk and reward, and translate them into the clear, precise language of mathematics. So, first up, he tackled return. He gave it a specific name, expected return, or just E for short. Now, this is crucial. It's not a guarantee of what you're gonna get. It's the statistical average of all the possible things that could happen, from huge wins to big losses. You can think of it as your single best guess. Next, he needed to quantify risk. He called it variance, or V. So what is variance? It basically measures how spread out all the possible outcomes are. A low-variance investment is like a smooth, predictable road. A high-variance one? Well, that's a super bumpy ride with extreme highs and lows. It was a brilliant way to finally put a number on uncertainty. So, with these two new tools, E and V, Markowitz proposed a completely new rule for investing. The goal isn't just to chase the highest possible return. No, the goal is to find the best possible return for a level of risk, or variance, that you're comfortable with. It's a trade-off. And this EV rule is the absolute heart of modern portfolio theory. Okay, and this is where the real magic happens. Markowitz showed that when you start combining different assets into a portfolio, something incredible happens to your overall risk. You see, a portfolio isn't just a bag of stocks. It's more like an integrated machine where all the parts are designed to work together. Whoa, okay, so this formula looks pretty intense, right? And, well, it is. This is the math that makes it all work, but don't worry, we're not going to solve it. The key takeaway isn't in the specific symbols, but in one really powerful idea that's hidden inside it. That secret ingredient is called covariance, and this little analogy here explains it perfectly. Imagine you're selling ice cream on the beach. It's a risky business, right? If it rains, your sales disappear. Now imagine you're selling umbrellas. Also risky. If it's sunny, no one's buying. But what if you owned both businesses? When it rains, your ice cream sales are terrible, but you sell a ton of umbrellas. Your total income becomes way more stable. That is what true diversification is. And this gets to a critical point. Owning 100 different tech stocks doesn't mean you're diversified. Because if the tech industry has a bad year, they're probably all going to fall together. Real diversification, the kind that actually works, is about finding assets that don't move in lockstep with each other. Kind of like umbrellas and ice cream. So if we can actually measure the risk and return of any possible mix of investments, what does that let us do? Well, it lets us draw a map of every possible investment outcome, so we can finally find the best path forward. Check this out. This is a chart from the original 1952 paper. Every single dot inside this cloud represents a unique portfolio you could build. The line at the bottom measures its risk, V, and the line on the side measures its expected return, E. As you can see, there are a lot of combinations. Okay, now I want you to focus on the top edge of that cloud. Markowitz called any portfolio that lands on this upper edge efficient. Why? Because for any level of risk you pick on the bottom axis, these portfolios offer the absolute highest possible return. Any portfolio inside the cloud is, well, it's just worse. You could always move straight up to the edge and get more return for the exact same amount of risk. And that top edge, when you plot it on its own, is the famous efficient frontier. This curve is the ultimate payoff of all that math. It gives investors a clear guide. Any rational portfolio choice must lie somewhere on this line. The only question left is where on the curve you want to be, and that just depends on how much risk you're willing to stomach. I mean, you can imagine the implications of this were just massive. Markowitz didn't just create a theory, he handed the entire financial world a completely new playbook for how to invest. The goal of investing was no longer this impossible hunt for the next sure thing. Instead, it became a science of construction. The focus shifted away from just picking individual stocks to carefully building an entire portfolio, one that's optimized for that perfect balance of risk and return. Markowitz himself drew this really critical distinction. He said, speculation is basically a bet on a single outcome, but investing, when you're guided by this EV principle, is a disciplined, rational strategy for managing your wealth over the long term by carefully balancing that risk and reward. So that leaves us with one last question to think about. When you look at your own savings, your own investments, what do you see? Do you see a collection of individual bets? Or do you see a thoughtfully constructed portfolio where all the pieces work together to give you the best possible return for the risk you're willing to take? The amazing thing is, thanks to Harry Markowitz, we now have the tools to actually know the difference.